Kylian Mbappé is one of the biggest football stars of our time. The Frenchman has been in the spotlight since his Monaco days, when his team reached the Champions League semi-final, and the 18-year-old Kylian became the second most expensive signing of all time as he moved to PSG for 180 million euros. Kylian, aged 24, is already a World Cup winner, as well as the best ever goalscorer for his club, while he has also made a number of enemies on his way to glory. And this is what this video, brought to you by Goal24, is about: Top 10 of those who hate Mbappé. But first, we'd like to ask you a question. Which non-French club has conceded the most goals from Kylian? Bayern, Barcelona, Juventus, Brugge? Feel free to leave your answers in the comments. And now, let's go. Neymar. There was an incident involving Mbappé and his Brazilian teammate Neymar earlier this season. PSG were to take a penalty twice in one game versus Montpellier. Kylian took the first one, but failed to score, while Neymar was precise from the spot a bit later. After the final whistle, Christophe Galtier, the PSG head coach, said that even though Mbappé was unlucky with his penalty, he would remain the first choice taker. Neymar, in his turn, found that outrageous as he launched a campaign against his teammate on social media, as he liked a Twitter post that said, "Now it's official, Mbappé will take PSG's penalties. Clearly, it's a contract issue, because no club in the world that has Neymar would make him the second taker, not one." It seems that via his contract, Mbappé owns PSG. The Brazilian was also upset with Mbappé's overall influence. Not only the Frenchman became the highest paid footballer in the world, but was given control over the whole club once he signed a new contract. And what Mbappé did back then pretty much proved that. He simply came to the PSG bosses and asked them to sell the Brazilian. However, the board didn't submit to Kylian's demands, and with time managed to persuade the players to leave it behind. But even though there are no public conflicts between Neymar and Mbappé, now these two are very unlikely to ever be friends again. By the way, we've made a video about Neymar's haters not that long ago, and we would like you to check it out after you're done with this one. We hope you'll enjoy it. Florentino Perez. The rumors about Mbappé moving to Real Madrid have been there for years, as the Los Blancos president Florentino Perez has always dreamt of bringing the Frenchman to Santiago Bernabeu. By the end of last season, it looked like a done deal. Kylian's contract with PSG was to expire in summer, and he was expected to join Real Madrid as a free agent, as Mbappé and Perez even had a prior agreement. But when least expected, the PSG board managed to ruin it all for Real Madrid. The 57 million contract they offered Mbappé was to make him the highest paid footballer in the world, and the striker didn't dare to say no to that. You can imagine Real Madrid's frustration. The fans accused the Frenchman of using Los Blancos' interest as a tool to win a better contract for himself. Since that moment, Kylian was nothing but a traitor to them. Even Perez felt betrayed, as everything seemed to have been settled. Once Mbappé signed his new PSG contract, he apologized to Real Madrid fans and asked for understanding, as he explained that he only wanted to stay in his home country and his hometown to play football. "I am grateful to Real Madrid fans, though I've never put on their shirt only once for a week when I was 14. They have always embraced me as one of their own." Florentino, however, decided to back down rather than add fuel to the fire. "He didn't betray me. He transmitted his dream to play at Real Madrid, and it's true. Last August, PSG didn't want to sell. We waited a year, and he kept saying the same thing. 15 days before the situation changed because of the political pressure and the economic factor. He did what he thought was easiest." As now Mbappé is once again rumored to be regretting his decision to stay at PSG, it is still possible that he'll move to Real Madrid, though the money such a deal may require may be too much, even for Real Madrid. Antoine Griezmann. Once the World Cup in Qatar was over, the France captain Hugo Lloris announced his retirement from the national team. As a result, Didier Deschamps, the head coach, had to pick a new captain, and Antoine Griezmann was believed to be his first option. The experienced striker who has made 118 appearances for the team since 2014, which is 5th best result. But Mbappé, aged 24, considered himself no less worthy of the armband as France's biggest star, and in the end, Deschamps had to grant his request as he said, "Kylian meets all the requirements to have this responsibility on the pitch and in daily life as a unifying element." But Griezmann's responsibility is going to be nowhere less than Kylian's. Though Kylian possesses leadership qualities, he's still going to need support from his teammates. Griezmann was so infuriated with his coach's decision that he was about to retire from the national team. In the end, however, he calmed down and Mbappé was among those who talked to him. We had a chat, and Antoine was clearly upset. I would have been too if I were him. Griezmann has probably been the most important player for the team since Deschamps took over. Should he want to say something, I will sit down and listen. Everyone has the right to speak up in our dressing room. Both Mbappé and Griezmann started in the recent game against the Netherlands, and only 2 minutes in, Kylian assisted Antoine as he found the opening. After that, there was a brace from Mbappé, and that was a very solid game for the newly appointed captain. But that wasn't enough to make the players content, as now the dressing room is said to have divided into 2 parts. The likes of Giroud, Pavard and Theo Hernandez are unhappy with Mbappé being the captain, while the others would rather settle the conflict as they tend to stay neutral. Dear friends, before we go on, we'd like you to help us gain 5,000 followers. If you like our videos, please leave a like, subscribe and don't forget to tap the bell button so that you don't miss our next video. The PSG Argentines. It wasn't just Neymar who fell out with Mbappé earlier this season, as back in August, the media claimed that Kylian was unhappy with the Argentines' influence. Once he was given power, he asked the board to get rid of a number of PSG players. Those were Mauro Icardi, Leandro Paredes and Lionel Messi. Angel Di Maria used to be one of them, but his contract with PSG ended last summer. So Mbappé accused that union of dictating their terms in the dressing room. And by the way, apart from the Argentines, there were Keylor Navas, Ander Herrera and the notorious Neymar. And even though it all may sound absurd, the reality is that there are only 2 of them left in the club now, Messi and Neymar. And the rest had to leave the club, either on loan or on a permanent basis, like Herrera, who was sold to Athletic Bilbao. Of course, should we consider the playing time they were getting and their overall quality, it all looked quite reasonable. But nevertheless, those who crossed Mbappe's way left PSG, which may or may not be just a coincidence. Tite. The former Brazil head coach is among those who don't fancy Kylian Mbappé. After all, the Frenchman once spoke up about the whole continent in quite an unpleasant way. Argentina and Brazil don't play games at a high level to get to the World Cup. Football is not as advanced as it is in Europe, and it shows when you watch the last World Cups. As we know, karma did hit him for that, as France lost to Argentina in the World Cup final. But long before that, Tite, while in charge of the Seleção, answered Mbappé as he said. Maybe he's talking about these nations' league clashes or European friendlies, but not World Cup qualifiers. We don't have, with all due respect, Azerbaijan to play. We don't have anyone that gives you a break. The qualifiers here have a much higher degree of difficulty than the group stage in Europe. Though Brazil lost to the European side Croatia in the quarterfinals, you can't say that Tite was completely wrong, as after all, it was Argentina to lift the World Cup in the end. Paul Pogba. Pogba and Mbappé were always considered close friends, the 2 leaders who led France to the World Cup triumph in 2018. But the shocking information Pogba's brother Matthias shared with the media says that Paul's envy towards Mbappé made him ask a shaman to put a curse on Kylian. That was in 2019 when PSG played Manchester United in the Champions League round of 16. After Kylian's goal helped PSG secure a 2-0 win, the second leg ended up being a shock. Paul Pogba, by the way, had to miss that game due to having been sent off in the previous one. Paul asked the shaman to neutralize Mbappé, who was on fire and a much bigger star. It was amazing to see Mbappé being just a shadow of himself that evening. And indeed, Mbappé didn't look that great at all, while his team unexpectedly lost 3-1 and got relegated due to the away goals rule. As Pogba's brother claims, Paul paid the shaman as much as 4 million euros for putting a spell on Mbappé. And he intended to curse Kylian for a longer time actually, but that would have cost him much more money. Matthias also said that Kylian trusted Pogba so much that he asked the PSG bosses to sign his compatriot. Never would he imagine his friend plotting against him. When asked if he believed that story, Mbappé responded, "I would rather believe my teammate than the yellow press. It's now his word against his brothers. I tend to believe Paul. To be honest, I don't really think about it right now. There are other things on my mind." But despite such words, it was rumored that Mbappé and Pogba did fall out in the end. As for now, Paul has been away from the national team due to his constant injuries for quite some time, but we're yet to see how these two are going to get along once reunited. Benoit Asuekoto. Though Mbappé was born and raised in France, he has Cameroonian origins, just like Benoit Asuekoto. The ex-Tottenham defender, he was upset with Kylian playing for France rather than sticking with Cameroon. Asuekoto, who in his turn picked Cameroon, supposed that Mbappé should have done the same. These European players of African origins, who have Africa in their hearts while choosing to play for a European team, you make me laugh. Kylian immediately stabbed Benoit back as he responded. These players who have Africa in their hearts but fight their national team partners in 2014, you make me laugh, but that's your way. By the way, one of the most iconic Cameroonian players, Samuel Eto'o, didn't consider Mbappe's choice a betrayal, as he said that a player must have the right to choose which country to play for. I don't want to see Kylian, born in Bordeaux, play for Cameroon. We have our own talents, and we should appreciate them. We have to find our own Mbappé. Jordi Alba and Gerard Piqué. Most of you probably still remember the Champions League round of 16 Barcelona-PSG tie in 2021. Mbappé was the hat-trick hero in the first leg at Nou Camp, while the French side won 4-1. Kylian was on fire that evening, as Barca players were going mad as they were unable to stop him. Serginho Dest tried marking him more tightly, and the Frenchman didn't like it, so he came to the American and said, "Don't touch me." Jordi Alba stood up for his teammate, but he didn't mean to fuel the conflict, as he only asked Mbappé to calm down. The Frenchman took that as an insult, as he decided to put his knowledge of Spanish to use. He came to Jordi and didn't hesitate to threaten him with a murder. That made another Barca player, Gerard Piqué, step up. "Who are you going to kill?" he kept asking. Fortunately, Alba did keep his head cool as he drove his teammate away and said, "Relax, he's still young and immature, it will pass with time." That was the end of that story, but it's unlikely that Mbappé learned anything from it, at least that very evening. Olivier Giroud. The conflict between Mbappé and the Milan striker emerged shortly before Euro 2020 and most likely affected France's performance. Olivier Giroud came in as a sub for the injured Karim Benzema in a friendly and scored a brace, but he still wanted his teammates to pass him the ball more often. "I ask for the ball but don't get it. I do my best in order to help my partners and offer solutions in the box. We could have scored more if we had been more efficient." And Mbappé took his teammates' complaint personally, as he thought that Olivier was accusing him, Kylian, of being too selfish. The PSG striker made his own conclusions out of that story, as not only he started ignoring Giroud, but detached himself from many other teammates. Giroud in his turn realized what was the matter and said that Mbappé simply got him wrong. But he was too late, as Kylian was reluctant to listen to any excuses. The coaching staff in the end managed to make the players talk to each other and leave that story behind, as Mbappé later said. "We have discussed everything. All the world knows what happened. Yes, his words hurt me, but I have no intention of making a story out of it. Such things should not affect our preparations." But nevertheless, that conflict did backfire, as France, the reigning champions of the world, lost to Switzerland in the Euro round of 16, where Mbappé, by the way, failed to score from the spot in the penalty shootout. Emiliano Martinez. The World Cup final in Qatar was very dubious for Mbappé. His hat-trick helped the team make a comeback and send the game into a penalty shootout. Kylian scored his penalty, just like his teammates Aurelien Tchouameni and Kingsley Coman, but his efforts were not enough, and Argentina won it. Emiliano Martinez, their keeper, came to Mbappé after the game was over as he meant to console the Frenchman. "I told him that he almost won the World Cup final all by himself. After Messi retires, Kylian will win the Ballon d'Or more than once." But don't let these words make you think too high of Martinez, as what he did later made way more headlines. First, while his team was celebrating in the dressing room, Emiliano asked for a minute of silence for Mbappé, and then, at the parade, he posed with a baby doll which had Mbappe's crying face on it. After the Argentina keeper faced brutal criticism, he tried to get out of it, and what he said was pretty nice save. "People were throwing many dolls towards us. I picked that one because I found it funny. I held it for a couple of seconds and then threw it back. That's it. How could I be mocking Mbappé? He scored 4 goals against me. He must be thinking of me as his doll." As for Kylian, he responded in a quiet, reserved way. "It's none of my business. I would rather not waste my energy for such little things." Mbappé is only 24, and his prime years are yet to come. His temper may be a problem at times, but we have to give him credit. It has never affected his work ethics and his professionalism. Dear friends, in which of these stories Mbappé's behavior was particularly wrong? Please let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you soon.